In this video, we are going to be doing a AP Micro FRQ. So let's read this FRQ. Include correctly, okay, yeah. In country of alpha, t-shirts are sold domestically in a competitive market. The equilibrium price is $10 and the equilibrium quantity is 100. Draw a correctly labeled demand and supply graph for the domestic t-shirt in alpha. Plot the numbers on the graph. Okay, so let's draw the domestic market. So do this for A. We're going to include our vertical axis, which is price, and we're going to include our horizontal axis, quantity. And our equilibrium is going to be here. So that's your equilibrium. And quantity of t-shirts. So now after this, let's do part B. Assume the world price of t-shirts is 6 and alpha engages in international trade. Part I. Will alpha be an exporter or importer of t-shirts? So alpha is going to be an importer of t-shirts. And that's because the price of the world equaling $6 that means the quantity that is domestic, that is demanded, exceeds domestic quantity. By importing t-shirts. Either price of the world is lower than the domestic equilibrium. So that is your so that means at $6, domestic consumers wanna buy more. Domestic producers wanna sell less, therefore QD, QS. So that's why they import the difference. Now what do we do next? On your graph, indicate domestic quantity of demand t-shirts at the world price and label it QD. So you're gonna have the same graph, but we gotta label it. So let's do this. Here 10 and here's 6 price of the world, and yeah, that's gonna be here. It's gonna be this gap right here. That's your horizontal line at 6. You find where it hits the demand curve. You drop down to that quantity axis. And that's going to be QD. It must be to the right of 100 because the price fell. And because the price falls, the demand rises because it's cheaper for consumers to purchase. Now, part 3. On your graph in A, indicate the change in the consumer surplus shaded completely. Okay. So, we're gonna draw this. Okay. So, we know that consumer surplus increases when your price falls. So your original consumer surplus was above the $10 and below the demand. So originally, now your new consumer surplus is above $6 and below the demand. So the change in the consumer surplus is the rectangle between 10 and 6. So we're talking about this rectangle. Also, this little triangle created by the expanded consumption. So we're talking about this region. Now, let's move on to our next part. Okay, this is actually part 2, and then this is part 3. But now let's move on to part C. Suppose the government of Alpha imposes a tariff of $2 on t-shirts. Yeah, that was this graph here. On your graph, indicate the new domestic quantity supplied as the result of the tariff, and that's QS. So this is QS as a result of that tariff. So the world price is equal to 8 or 6. Tariff is 2. The new domestic price so that's what the price rises to. So at this price, and your domestic demand decreases, you move up the demand curve. So you see that from 6, you go to 8. And you go up supply curve and up demand curve. So your horizontal line is at 8, you find where that hits the supply curve, you drop the quantity axis and label that QS. That's going to be greater than the supply at $6 and less than 100 because the price rose but still is below $10.